Welcome back. Now, in this week's episode of Next Gen Console Watch, I asked our audience what they would pick for 3 of the biggest categories in this year's Game Awards. I personally picked Astro Bot as Game of the Year, and look what happened. Brianna White as Aerith for the year's Best Performance, and Helldivers 2 as this year's Best Multiplayer title. But let's find out what you thought. Turns out we agreed on all 3 categories, with 35% of the vote going to Astro Bot, 36% to Brianna White, and 30% to Helldivers 2. It was a very close race. So what do we think about a little bit of a surprise, Astro Bot winning Game of the Year?
It was not a surprise to me. I was rooting for Astro Bot from the beginning. I was screaming Astro Bot sweep, although I will have to acknowledge that there were incredible games in that category as well. But Astro Bot, I just fell in love with Astro Bot. The colors, the way they took advantage of the controller, haptic feedback, the DualSense controller. No other game made the PlayStation controller, took advantage of the PlayStation controller in that way. It was just a joy to play this game, and also watching the developers create the game. They really put a lot of love and passion into it, and they were very specific about what they wanted to put into it, and it was a complete success bringing the 3D platformer to the modern world and into the hands of new kids also who have never touched 3D platformer, and it's a perfect game.
It's one of those franchises that I think Sony is going to invest heavily in the coming years. We've been talking on numerous podcasts throughout the years, where's Sony's mascot characters gone? Where's the Jack? Where's the Sly? Where's the Ratchet? Like, Ratchet's still around, thankfully, but a lot of other mascots have just kind of have disappeared for a while, and now Astro is here to kind of fill that void and help welcome the younger audience into gaming in a, I'd say, perfect way.
Yeah, I mean, it is really refreshing. I am very surprised that it won Game of the Year, but I am refreshing. It's refreshing that it did because, there's so many self-serious AAA gigantic games that look just stunning, and they have like super serious storylines and feature mature themes, and it's so nice to see that a game that is filled with such pure joy walk away with the Game of the Year, because again, this is a game distilled down to its purest essence. I think it is, you run, you jump, and you zap things. It's pretty straightforward, but there's so much there to discover. And like, going back to the PlayStation roots, we saw a little bit with Astro's Playroom, and now this, it feels like Sony is slowly starting to recognize hey, we used to do weird stuff, and maybe we should start doing more weird stuff. Any game that has a kid looking at their parent and saying, "Dad, what's Parappa?" I was like, that's a win in my book as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, the game won Family Game of the Year also, and when you play this game, you also see throwbacks to old games that PlayStation have launched before, so you can enjoy this game as a parent and as a kid at the same time. And if you've never seen those characters, now you know about them. Now you can go back and play them. So I absolutely love the nostalgia that they threw in as a celebration for PlayStation as well. It's a pretty cool game.
Yeah, my 5-year-old son now knows Jumping Flash. He thinks Jumping Flash is cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a win. That's a big win.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree was the favored win, even though I think most people agree it shouldn't be nominated for Game of the Year. But since enough people wanted it to be nominated, I thought, well,
you give people the option to vote for it, and you assume that they'd vote for it.
Yeah. But I don't know, maybe because there was pushback for it to be nominated, maybe people changed their mind and okay, well, I'll vote for something else instead then.
Yeah.
And then I thought maybe Balacho was kind of like a dark horse.
An underdog.
It got a great underdog story. But then as Metaphor kept racking up
That's what I thought.
wins, I thought, well, maybe we're going towards Metaphor.
Yeah, it's such a crazy that Metaphor. I honestly thought Metaphor had it in the bag, just because we saw it win so many other awards, like you said, and it's such a fantastic game, and it came out late enough in the year to stay relevant with it being a big, massive RPG. But it just wasn't its year. Astro wins all.
Yeah.
Astro King.
I think it still had a pretty solid year.
It did. It definitely did.
And best performance went to the lead from Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, which I know you're a big fan of.
Yes, I love the Hellblade franchise. Melina Juergens is a fantastic actress. Her emotions, her performance in this, Ninja Theory has one of the best mocap studios, I think, for gaming, period. And so it just really takes full advantage of her charisma and her performance and just how great she is at portraying Senua. And although Hellblade 2 was shorter than a lot of people would have liked, that didn't take anything away from the performance and the story it told. It was so powerful and poignant. I loved it.
Yeah, I don't think Hellblade 2 is particularly like a fantastic game per se, but I do think that its focus on telling a cinematic story really did a lot to kind of point at the incredible performance from our lead.
Yeah.
So I think it just all helped come together to basically be a 5-hour long movie that was just, hey, look, this character rocks and is going through some interesting things. And from an AV perspective, just the things that they do with audio in that game is nuts. And the stuff they do with UE5 just really pushes your hardware to the limit.
Yeah, like I dream of the day when we have a game that's as fun as Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, but has the facial animation of Hellblade 2, right? Like that would be the entire package. And then, but multiplayer game went to Helldivers 2.
Helldivers 2.
Not too surprising there.
A lot of fans, a lot of people have been very loud. They announced the new faction tonight, the Illuminate, I believe is what they're called. It's been a while since I've fought against them, since Helldivers 1, because they were there in the original. And yeah, I'm hyped to get back in this with the friend group and put them on my back once again.
Yeah. Didn't we also see vehicles in the trailer as well? Is this the first time that we get vehicles?
This is the first like team vehicle. So there's the armored mechs they had that they dropped a couple months ago, which if you did it right with your allies, when you could get to like a rock face and you could jump on top of the mech and just ride it like freestyle, but very dangerous. I don't know how much I'm going to be using the Jeep. It's all going to depend on the armor of it, because I can just predict, especially against the automatons, that a couple rockets are going to blow it up and just wipe 4 off of your life stock.
The new biome as well, like the cityscape, that's new as well,
that's
right?
very new.
And
That
it looks like the
very cool.
Illuminate are very much like a zombie horde style situation. So I think it lends itself well to, having a vehicle and kind of getting in tight confined spaces and trying to figure out how to escape. I think if nothing else, I'm not a particularly big multiplayer guy, but even Helldivers 2 was able to kind of pull me into the fold. And, the beautiful thing about Helldivers 2 as a multiplayer game is that everyone walks away with their own bespoke war stories that were theirs and theirs alone. And that alone is what makes a game like this so special.
I think it created something that we hadn't seen in a long time, like the sense of community and the memes that came out of it, and everybody was role playing in as they were Helldivers in online. I thought it was incredible, so I am not surprised that it won multiplayer game of the year.
I talked about it earlier this year on previous Game of the Year, like watch shows and stuff that we did. And I was like, it's all going to depend on if it can keep up that stream of content. And they've done a pretty good job.
It's had some ups and downs, but I think in general,
yeah, they kept it relevant.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to the winners. Let's get back to some of the other announcements and reveals and new trailers. We were talking about Outer Worlds 2 earlier. Very amusing latest trailer for that one. What struck me is that they said they spent 3 times as long making the game, but it'll be 2 times as long,
At least
2 times as big.
As better?
2 times as big, I think, as the first
got
one.
Got
which
it.
is good, because I loved Outer Wilds. It was kind of, it was
Worlds,
a little
but yeah.
bit smaller, which is not bad,
No.
But the idea of, spending more time and getting more game out of that is appealing to me.
I agree. The first Outer Worlds also had like 500 or 600,000 words of dialogue that I'm sure most people didn't see. So I'm very curious to see how big the word count is going to be in this one for the narrative and voice acting and such.
Yeah, and I think Obsidian really shines when they are given like a more intimate setting with a lot more like factions that kind of feed into each other. And I think the decisions alone in the first planet of the Outer Worlds really set the tone for what the rest of that game would be. Granted, I do think that game starts way stronger than it ends. I'm excited to see what Obsidian's cooking up for Outer Worlds 2, because bigger is better according to the trailer, and I agree.
True. We were just congratulating the winner of those 3 Game Awards earlier. Also want to say thank you to Xfinity for sponsoring this segment. Xfinity customers can win big by signing up for Xfinity Rewards. Get special perks to your favorite games, including early access to a one-of-a-kind EA Sports FC25 kit inspired by Sophia Smith. It's free and easy to join. Just head over to xfinity.com/rewards to learn more.